program is part of the Scene Project's podcast network. The Scene Project features interviews with independent musicians, comedians, and artists from across the Midwest. Become part of our community and support local art wherever you are. Welcome into another exciting episode of Real Biz. I am your host, Bubba Starts, and with me today is my friend and founder of Mavens and Moguls, Paige Arnof-Fenn. Paige, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bubba. I'm excited to talk to you today.
I am so thrilled to have you. I feel almost a little sad that we didn't record our first conversation on the Discovery call, but we're gonna cover some of that today. And I'm just very grateful that you get to spend a little time with me. So thanks for being here. And off the top of the show, I really just want to give you an opportunity to give us a little introduction, a little bit of your backstory, and then we'll pick the conversation up from there.
Sounds great. Well, I started a marketing company about 24 years ago, but my first job out of college was in finance on Wall Street in the 80s. And then I kind of pivoted into marketing after business school, and I've been in marketing ever since. I've had 3 chapters to my marketing career. First in kind of big brand corporate marketing at places like Procter & Gamble and Coca-Cola. Then I ran marketing at 3 startup companies. The first one was actually in the music business, Launch Media, launch.com. It was acquired by Yahoo and became Yahoo Music. And then I did 2 more startups as the head of marketing. And then I hung out a shingle right after 9/11. And here I am.
Incredible stuff. I love your ties to the music industry, your ties to the Wolf of Wall Street.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, well, what a time to be alive, but working on Wall Street. Some of the worst times, some of the craziest times in the financial, district down there. And and then moving obviously into your own marketing, companies, but working with some huge brands in that time as well. What is it like to work on a marketing team at a massive brand like a Coca-Cola?
So Coke is probably the most recognized brand in the world. Somewhere in the world, there's a Coke ad running every minute of every day. What's great is it's a beloved brand. Everybody kind of has a personal experience. And they have the budget to sponsor amazing events, sporting events, the Oscars, stadiums. So it's one of those brands that's just part of your life. The people are great. The brands are great. And, it's not just one product. There are lots of different products, and in different countries, they have things that they don't even sell here in the US, but I loved working at Coca-Cola and P&G. They're the leader in every category they compete in. Like I said, extremely well-funded. They work with the smartest brand leaders around the world. The employees, the agencies, the partners they work with. So it's a great place to kind of learn how to do it really well. On the flip side, these are huge organizations, lots of hierarchy, lots of layers of management. And because they invented, P&G invented the concept of brand management, running a brand like a business. And Coke's been doing it for more than a century. They have their way of doing things, and they just want you to stick to their plan. So it's a little bit trickier if you are somebody who likes to shake things up and try new things. You're really signing up for doing it their way. The great thing is they've mastered the art of doing it their way, and it's kind of a bulletproof process. But, I was one that always was trying to bend, break, or change the rules. If you talk to any of my bosses from that chapter of my career, they would tell you I worked hard, I was really smart, I was really good at the business, but I drove them crazy because they'd give me an assignment and they'd just want me to do it the Coke way or do it the P&G way. And I'd say, hey, have we ever thought about this, or should we try this? And they're like, no, Paige, we already know how to do it. Just follow the rules. So when I worked for startups and when I started my own firm, I definitely think I've got more of an entrepreneurial DNA because I love trying new things. I love trying to see if there's a better way, a more scrappy way. My budgets have never been as big as they were in that first chapter of my career. So I got really good at guerrilla marketing and helping my clients who don't have as much money find ways to break through the clutter and stand out.
No wonder we get along so well, Paige. But you're a creative, right? And that's why you probably were attracted to marketing in the first place, is because you wanted to do creative things. And sometimes being put into a box and being told to stay there just doesn't work for someone who's creative. I know that's why I struggle in those types of situations. And the thing about being a creative is that not everything is going to work, right? A lot of these ideas aren't going to work. And I think a lot of people they think of creative and they just think of it in the arts, right? That you can draw, or you can, graphic design, or you can play music, but really creativity is a thought process. It is a way of looking at things differently and presenting new ideas, having new ideas, instead of like Coke that's like, no, we've been doing this for a century. I think we got it. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. And how do you fault a brand? Like, when they spend the kind of money they do, mistakes in their marketing cost them a lot more than someone with, a couple $1,000s of budget that, it maybe doesn't sink the company in that. And maybe they haven't seen big wins ever. So you're willing to kind of throw some darts at the wall and to see what sticks.
And I think the great thing that I really love about marketing is you use both sides of your brain, the analytical side and the creative side. I feel like on Wall Street, I was much more focused on the analytics. And although I was always good with numbers and math, I just didn't enjoy it as much. And we all see what happens when Wall Street people get a little too creative with the numbers. That can be a little dangerous. So I love the fact that in marketing, there's art and there's science. So you can use the data and use the analytics as support points and, helping you, connect the dots in a way that is very compelling. But you can also test lots of different story angles and creative executions and see which ones connect on an emotional level and really move the needle. So I think I'm just much better suited for the marketing world because I get to do a little of everything, and that makes it really fun.
Yeah, well, and I'm more de facto marketing director of our company because we are a small company that it's sometimes hard for me. It's hard to see the forest for the trees, right? It can be very difficult for founders to be able to effectively market themselves and their brand. And I, for someone who's done guerrilla marketing a lot and who, isn't like terrible at it, but I know that I'm not as good as I could be. So what is your advice to, people like me who tend to just do everything themselves because we don't really have any budget to invest into that? But what's some advice that you can give to people, in when they're looking for someone to work with as a, marketing agency?
So, again, I started with big brands, established brands that had budgets to begin with. And I think it's really important to start with market research. When you work for a P&G or a Coke, market research tends to be very expensive and take a long time. These are mass marketed brands. They have millions of customers. And when they do research, they want it to be statistically significant. The companies I worked with now and the startups I worked with before, you know, they don't have millions of people buying their products or services. So, you know, you can find information in a much more scrappy way. You know, you can use Zoomerang and SurveyMonkey. You can talk to dozens or hundreds of people. You don't need to talk to millions of people. But it is really important that you get objective data on what's working and why it's working. I think where people get into the danger zone, you know, I'll have people come to me and say, you know, everyone loves my product or service. I don't understand why we're not selling more. Everyone I talk to gives me
Because you're lying to yourself. First of all, not everybody loves your product. Most people probably don't even know who you are.
bingo. And I think, you know, if you're talking to your sister, your mother, your neighbor, your friend, that's not actually market research. Those are people that don't want to hurt your feelings and don't want to tell you the baby's ugly. So you're not actually getting objective research. You're getting, you know, you're asking them, what do you love about my product? Or can you tell me 3 things about my service that, you know, you think are fantastic? You're leading the witness. So it's in marketing, we say garbage in, garbage out. So that's not market research. If you're talking to real customers, or real gatekeepers, real, you know, secondary, tertiary audiences, people who influence the ultimate decision maker, if you're asking them the question in a very objective way and you're getting real feedback, and it might not be positive, it probably isn't all positive, and you're listening and you're looking at the results and the data, that's got to be kind of your first foundational step, because you really want to make sure you're talking to the right people, asking the right questions, and getting real feedback. If you do that well, then you want to test and learn. You know, you can have different versions of the email with different subject lines, or different versions of the logo or the website, and ask for feedback. Do you like A or B? You can watch people. Which one do they click on more? If you try 2 different versions of an ad, or 2 different price points, which one is getting the most traction? Again, that's data based, but you do want to connect with your audience on an emotional level. How are you tugging at their heartstrings? Because ultimately, people make decisions based on kind of their gut and their kind of likes, but they want to justify it with the data. And, you know, that's just human nature. So you have to figure out what's real, and, you know, follow those breadcrumbs. And I also think the thing that's real today is if you don't exist online, you're invisible. And if you're invisible, that's a terrible marketing strategy. So you really need to make sure that if people are looking for you, if they look for you in Google, if they're looking for you on social media, you need to stand out. You need to break through the clutter and the noise. Being invisible is a really bad marketing strategy. So you want to make sure all the things that pop up about you are consistent, tell a story that builds trust and builds a relationship with your audience. If you're one kind of brand on Facebook and you're very different on LinkedIn or Instagram, it's confusing, and your customer, your audience is going to not trust you because they don't know which version of you is going to show up. So make sure you're telling a consistent story on all different platforms, and you're building that ongoing conversation and relationship with the audience and the gatekeepers that actually buy what you're selling.
Yeah, a consistent brand narrative, being where people are looking. Now, you don't necessarily need to be on every single social media platform. You definitely need to be on the, big three, the Facebook, Instagram. And I think for anyone that's in business, LinkedIn is just massive. It has changed my life. I wasn't there until maybe 6 months ago, or maybe I was, but I wasn't engaging there. And it's been such a game changer for me to connect B2B now, which I wasn't necessarily doing before. I was connecting with our artists, and that was very easy because I could network with them on Facebook or an Instagram and find them very easily there. But to punch up, right, and to get into that next, realm of the music industry, those people were not on the places where I was looking and hanging out. So, but LinkedIn has been an absolute game changer. We've had so many industry professionals now that we're able to bring into our world that are actually helping us to provide more value to our listeners, which is our community, mostly of artists. Right. So kind of that's been our market research, because we were brand new and in a relatively new media space, being the podcasting world. And we came in with such a different approach to it. We knew it was edutainment pretty early on, and that it was about promoting the artist and to getting that out there. But we were also working with artists that nobody else was really researching about or looking for. We were sinking our hooks into as many coattails as possible, hoping one of these people are the next Jelly Roll or any of the, massive artists. And then you get to be kind of the first ones in the door for that. But now it's because we've interviewed over 500 artists. A lot of them have ended up following the show and being part of our community, that it kind of turned on its head this, in the last few months, where it was like, okay, we have our community. We didn't maybe bring in like the fans of music like we thought we would, or I'd assumed early on, Paige, that these artists were going to share the show and then their fans were going to follow from that interview and stuff. And that didn't really materialize like that. But what it did was that other bands and artists became part of the community. So I was able to do my market research, look at who was, in our community and go, okay, how do we serve them? And now that's become, okay, let's start getting more industry professionals in here. Let's start serving this artist community. And if fans of that tend to come in and are taking a piece of this and are, seeing our content and following from there, so be it. But let's serve the people that are here now. There's, several thousand people between our different Facebook groups, our email list, and, our subscribers on YouTube that we can be serving now and we can be providing value to. So it's been a massive change in what even here at the Scene projects have been doing.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned LinkedIn. Some people think of LinkedIn as like for resumes or to build your Rolodex. And the truth is, in a digital world that we live in today, LinkedIn is a foundational platform to build trusted relationships. And so if you and I are connected on LinkedIn, we can look and see how many people we know in common. And that just makes me feel more comfortable. Like,
it builds trust.
It builds trust. Exactly. And that's, in this day and age with artificial intelligence and all the robots taking over, your humanity and the human element, those trusted connections mean more today than they ever have before. So, that's where you can stand out versus the artificial intelligence. And LinkedIn is also an amazing platform for thought leadership. You can really stand out. Again, a lot of the AI tools, it's like the lowest common denominator. And what you want is you want to own real estate in your end user, your customer's brain, so that when they have a problem that your product or service can help them solve, you want them to think of you first. And so LinkedIn is absolutely critical, and especially if you're looking for sponsors or, again, in that B2B community, you don't need millions of people, but you want the people that you are reaching to have deep roots with you. And so LinkedIn is great for that. That's my preferred platform as well.
Yeah, absolute game changer for me in our business careers now moving forward. And I feel like I didn't feel comfortable there as an artist, but as the podcast has advanced, winning Content Creator of the Year award, treating myself and calling myself executive producer, right? Where I put myself in more of that, authoritative and, thought leader role. And I think that we have some interesting ideas because I am a creative still around it. I'm not trying to come in and copycat what's already been done before.
Yeah.
I'm taking advice from other people, but I'm applying it with my own personal experience every single day. And I think that's what's helping us to stand out in this world, and especially in the business world, because a lot of people that have been around in the music industry we're in an industry that's completely turned upside down right now. So they're struggling just as much as the next guy or gal to find their footing in this. And we're kind of coming in and going, well, we're building our own thing. This is what we're doing. It seems to be successful. And I think people are now starting to gravitate to that. And having a give of a very successful podcast is such a great avenue. So kind of our first, my recommendations to anyone that I'm mentoring in the space now is you got to be on LinkedIn. You should be doing podcast interviews and use that as a give to punch up a little bit into this realm. All of these, industry execs, no matter what world you're in, would love to come and talk about themselves and their book and their things. So give them the platform to do that on.
100%. You were absolutely right.
Paige, where can people find you to work with you? I don't want to keep you too long today. And, we talk fairly regularly now, so we could always get back on whenever we have more to chat about. But go ahead and plug everything for you, of yours before I let you go.
So the website is mavensandmoguls.com. It's MAVENSANDMOGULS.com. And LinkedIn, my platform of choice. You can see my last name is hyphenated, but on LinkedIn, it's all smushed together. And as one of my clients always says, between my hyphenated last name and the ampersand in Mavens and Moguls, there are just too many words for her to remember. So when she's looking for me, she goes into Google and types in Paige and Mavens because that's all she can remember. And I pop right up because search engine optimization actually works.
Well, that's exactly how it's done. Paige, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for the introductions to the companies that have absolutely changed our life, and getting introduced to Source of Sources has been a game changer for us and allowed us to have some really interesting conversations here on the show as well. So I appreciate you being part of our network, and I appreciate you being part of the scene.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a great chat. Thanks a ton.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.